is that the same thing happens beyond our bodies. When we feel that feeling in our heart, what we're actually doing is creating an electrical field and a magnetic field in our heart that is much stronger than the electrical and the magnetic field in our brain. And this is why the feeling in our heart is more powerful than the thought in the brain. And when we create those electrical and magnetic fields in our hearts, they aren't limited to our bodies. They extend beyond our bodies into the world around us. And they begin to literally change the atoms of our world. They rearrange the stuff our world is made of, because the atoms of our world are made of electrical and magnetic information.
Yeah.
So our heart is over 5,000 times stronger with a magnetic field than our brain. Our heart is over 100 times stronger with an electrical field than our brain. So when we can feel those feelings, what we call feelings, what we're actually doing is creating the waves of electrical and magnetic information in our heart that extend into the world. And as we learn to hone this language, to speak this language of the heart really well, as the great masters of our past have shown us, that's when we learn to affect the world around us as well as the world within our bodies. And you don't have to know any science or anything technical to do it. All we are invited to do is to use the power of human belief and human emotion and create the feelings from the outcome as if our heart's desire has already happened. And I know that's a lot of information in a short period of time, but I wanted just to pull all that together so that we can talk about it now for the rest of the program.
Definitely, wonderful, definitely. And you know, just to make, I guess, a comparison here, much like gravity in a way, even though we might not be able to explain it or understand it fully, yet there it is and actually affects us. And I guess that this works in a similar way, meaning that, you know, the obvious question is, well, how can, you know, emotion make the universe to begin to, you know, work in our favor or whatever? But this is just a law, I guess, of the universe, the law of attraction, I guess.
Well, this is where this divine matrix comes in. When the question, because this field, this quantum field, bathes everything. It connects everything. It's not out there somewhere. It's running through our bodies right now. And this field is a field of potential energy that can become anything. And it looks to the feelings in our hearts as the blueprints. You can think of it this way. We're creating the blueprint through the way we feel in our heart for what this energy of potential actually becomes. So it's less even about attraction, and it's more about what it is that we create. It's not that we're attracting those things; we're creating them. If we all feel in a post 9/11 world, if we are all conditioned to live our lives in fear, and we feel that fear every day, then it's not surprising to see very frightening things happening in the world around us all the time.
Yeah.
If, however, we can look at the things happening in the world and we can acknowledge them, because there are. I mean, in all honesty, there are frightening things that happen. If we can observe them without internalizing them, if we can recognize and say, yes, there are frightening things and there are some bad people in the world, but they don't have to be our frightening things. We don't have to be afraid that they're happening to us.
That's right.
There's a subtle and very powerful difference there.
There is.
Because we can recognize what's happening on the one hand without allowing it to influence the way we feel about our world. So we can look at the things happening and watch the 6 o'clock news, because those things, you know, the bombings and the wars, those are all part of our reality right now. But in our hearts, if we can give thanks of gratitude and appreciation for the peace that already exists, because there is already peace. We're not fooling ourselves. There is peace in our world, and if we, in some places, and if we can give thanks of gratitude and appreciation for what we already have, for the peace that already exists, for the healing and the health and the vitality that we already have, in our bodies, for the abundance that already exists in our lives, what we are doing, if we can give thanks of gratitude and appreciation for those things, we're creating the blueprint so that this field of the divine matrix can give us more and more and more of those very things. It can only give us what we give it to work with. The divine matrix can only reflect back what it is that we give it to reflect. And this is where every one of us, every human listening to this broadcast, every human on the face of the earth is so important, because we're the ones that choose what this field shows us in the world. So our great challenge, our workshop, is living in a world of tremendous change and transition, where both things are happening at the same time, both the lightest of the light and the darkest of the dark. And while we can acknowledge and witness the dark and frightening things, if we can do it without identifying with them, if we can witness without claiming those to be our reality. So we can see them on the news, but in our hearts, we give thanks for the good things that we already have in our lives, and that's where we place our focus. What the experiments show, what the science demonstrates, and what the ancient tradition said, is that is how you create more of those things in your life. Because you're now, in your heart, feeling the feelings of gratitude and appreciation and peace and healing. So you're giving this field, the divine matrix, a blueprint or a template so that it can give you back precisely those things. And this is what the great masters of our past have always said to us. It's interesting, isn't it? It's a very different way of thinking about things.
Definitely, and those are very important points. I mean, that's wonderfully put, I think. It is about, in a way, as you say, recognizing that there are bad things happening in the world, and in a way also even maybe to potentially solve a problem, or recognizing that that there is bad, as it were, out there, but to not get emotionally carried away with it, or implementing that, or internalizing that fear in that way. And I think that is very important. Do you think
it is? In the live programs, I was just in. Let's see, we were in Vienna, we were in Hamburg, we were in Frankfurt, I was in Milan. Where else was I? I was in Switzerland. We showed a live video, or a video clip of a healing that is happening using these principles, and I think it demonstrates it beautifully. Can I talk about that briefly?
Sure, definitely. Go ahead.
It was a healing. It was filmed in a medicineless hospital in Beijing, China, and it was through an ultrasound. We were able to look into the body of a living woman who had a tumor, a cancerous tumor, that Western doctors said that they could not operate on. They couldn't do anything for her because it was too advanced. So they said, be comfortable until the end of your days. It was what the Western doctors said. She went to an alternative way of thinking about things, a medicineless clinic in China. And through the ultrasound, we can watch this tumor in her body respond, while 3 practitioners are standing next to her using the kinds of the principles that we're talking about. They were Qigong practitioners. So they've learned to move energy in their bodies, and they've learned to focus the power of feeling in their hearts. This is the language. And what they were doing is these 3 practitioners, they felt the feeling as if the woman was already healed, as if she was fully enabled, fully capacitated. And in less than 3 minutes, in 2 minutes and 40 seconds, on the ultrasound, we watch that tumor. It begins to quiver, and it fades, and it disappears.
What?
And the woman's life is changed in less than 3 minutes.
You're kidding.
Using these principles.
Sheesh.
And they do this over there all the time. This is part of their belief system. To them, it's not a miracle. To them, it's the way things work. And all they're doing is they are speaking the language that the field recognizes, and the field can